Hey, good morning, VC. Tony's LPs are us. Tony here, checking in. I haven't done a full video in a few days, but I just want to mention yesterday I was just watching Final Community and I got onto Rachel Ghost's live feed and I, talked to her a little bit, chatted, and she was able to, she was nice enough to invite me on. So I got to sit on the panel a little bit and talk to this. Illustrious panel of a lot of VCers that I've been watching for years. So I want to thank Rachel and check out her channel, Rachel's Ghost. Actually, she's on right now, a live feed as I'm doing this. So I'll post this, and if she's still on, I'll check in with Rachel. There was some really good VCers on there. I don't want to mention anyone because I may leave someone out, but they were all people that I admire, and I really had a good time. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate you guys letting me in there. It was an honor. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about how I alphabetize and categorize my record collection. Basically, what I do is I have blues separate in alphabetical order by artist. I have jazz separate, alphabetical by artist. I have vocalists, which are male and female. Barbra Streisand most of the time. For instance, Nat Cole, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, people like that as vocalists, Tom Jones. Then I have my rock. I put rock and pop together. I have soundtracks that are separate, and sometimes I cross pollinate a lot of this, and that's what this video is about. How do you organize your vinyl collection? The way I organize a lot of my bands and solo artists are pretty unique, I think, and it's just based on what's in my head. It's not the It may not fit your needs. You may think this is crazy. I'm not going to do it. It's just my opinion. This is how I've been doing it for years, and it seems to work out pretty well for me. For instance, if I consider a band a super band, such as Zeppelin, Bee Gees, Free, Genesis, Yes, Zeppelin, mentioned Zeppelin, they have shoot offs. Their members go off and do solo albums, solo projects, even with other big big names. What I do is if I have, for instance, my Genesis collection, I have Genesis, but then I will incorporate any Genesis band member's solo record into that section. So, for instance, my Phil Collins records aren't going to be under C in rock or pop. They're going to be mixed in with the Genesis. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. I pulled out a bunch here. I did a lot of work today. I pulled out some things, and I consider these big bands. They have a lot of solo work, a lot of records. And what helps is if the solo artist has, say, the solo artist for the Bee Gees has one album solo, or one of the Bee Gees has one album solo. You put that under G for Gibb, whatever Gibb he is. It tends to get lost in a big collection. But if you put it in with your Bee Gees, you're going to say, okay, he's going to be with the Bee Gees. That's a brother, and that's the way I work it. So I'm going to show you a quick. I've got a lot of records, but it's not going to take long. It's just my opinion, and I want to see how you guys organize. Okay, so we're going to do Zeppelin here. So I pulled out some Zeppelin, and I have a reissue of Zeppelin 2. You can see that. Not a new reissue, but that's a reissue. Then I have Robert Plant with Alison Krauss solo. So he's with my Zeppelin. I don't have any other Alison Krauss records except for the ones she's done with Robert Plant. Although I know she's a multi-Grammy Award winner. She's fantastic, but the only albums I have are her solo albums with Robert Plant. Here we have the Honey Drippers, which is Robert Plant and Jimmy Page. So that goes with Zeppelin. Here we have another OG Zeppelin 2. Here we have another Alison Krauss, Robert Plant. Here we have a rare one, John Paul Jones from Zeppelin, Bassman. This is a great album. It's a soundtrack album for Scream for Help. So that goes with Zeppelin. It's another Scream for Help. The Firm could go with Free, because it's Paul Rogers or Zeppelin. And this one I put in with Zeppelin because Jimmy Page is the guitarist. Here we have another Robert Plant solo. Here we have another Robert Plant solo. And here we have a 12-inch of the Firm Radioactive, which, by the way, is an audiophile sounding record. So that's Zeppelin, and that's what I do with Zeppelin people. Here we have Pete Townshend and The Who. As you know, The Who are considered a super group. That's a no-brainer. So we have Pete Townshend solo record. I have a John Entwistle solo record. I have The Who record. It's Hard and Shrink. I have Squeezebox. These are just examples. I just pulled out a few of the major core bands to show with solos. Here I have Pete Townshend by popular demand and Shrink. This is a great live record. Pete Townshend stuff, I almost like his solo stuff as much as I do The Who. Here we have Roger Daltrey, solo stuff. Another Daltrey, still in the Shrink, not warped. This has the dollar sticker on it. It's a cutout. And here we have another Pete Townshend. Great album. So I don't have any of Keith Moon's solo albums. I don't believe Keith Moon did a solo album, but we have the three other members of The Who solo albums, and they are incorporated into my Who collection. Here I have the Bee Gees, which I mentioned before. Here's some of my Bee Gees. Great album, 2 years on with, let me see what's on here. Lonely Days, unbelievable. Here we have, and I also put my soundtracks that they've popularized. Here's Staying Alive, and this is, of course, has a bunch of Bee Gees songs on it. So I keep it with the Bee Gees, and if I want to hear disco or stuff like that, I know my Staying Alive are going to be with the Bee Gees. Same with Saturday Night Fever. 100 million copies sold, mostly all Bee Gees, although there are other great bands on here. Ralph McDonald, The Tramps, Casey and the Sunshine Band, Travaris, but this record is with my Bee Gees, and if I want to hear it, I know exactly what it is. If I put it in with the soundtracks, it might be harder to find. Here's Grease. Grease is in there only because I associate it with the soundtracks, but normally this would be with Frankie Valli or Olivia Newton-John, for instance. Here I have Barbra Streisand with Barry Gibb. He produced this album, I believe, wrote most of the tunes, maybe all the tunes. So I keep that. I don't really have, I'm not a real big fan of Barbra Streisand. I have a lot of her records, are always available. And she is a female vocalist, but I keep her with the Bee Gees in this particular record. Here we have Andy Gibb. That's what I mean. I have one Andy Gibb record. If I put this in in the G's, it's going to get lost. Here it's with the Bee Gees. I know exactly where it is. Here we have another perennial band from my youth or my teenage years, CCR, Creedence Clearwater Revival. And here we have some of their albums. And what I do is I mixed in the John Fogerty solo albums with these. Here's some 12-inch 45s, John Fogerty. So I also have John's Brothers solo albums. I just couldn't locate them because they're not in with the CCR. They're mixed in with some crates. If they were mixed in with the CCR, I'd be able to find them instantly. Even John's, I think it's called the Ranger, Night Ranger. John had a solo band that came out prior to his solo work, and I have that album. That goes with this. This is going to be a favorite for all you Deadheads out there. Pulled a bunch of Dead albums, and let me see what we have here. And some of their solo work. Here we have Bobby and the Midnights. Okay. This is a great album with Bob Weir. So one of the founding members of the Dead, I put him with Bob with the Dead. Also on this album, I have to check this out again, is Billy Cobham playing drums, if you know Billy Cobham. fantastic jazz drummer. One of the top 10 in my book. Here we have an original Working Man's Dead, Green Warner. Here we have Ace, which is another spinoff of a solo project from Dead People. Ace, right there. So that's with the Dead. Here I have Kingfish. Again, Bob Weir. So that's all with the Dead. Here we have another Kingfish and Shrink with the sticker, hype sticker. That's with the Dead. I even put Paul Hornsby in with the Dead because he played with them for so many years. Played piano and keys, and I'm not sure if he did vocals with them. But I'm not a big Hornsby fan. If I put him under H's and pop, it would get lost. So I keep him with the Dead. I know where it is. If you came over and were looking for you came over, I wasn't here, and you were looking for Bruce Hornsby, you would probably think I didn't have any. And this Digga. This is the Mickey Hart solo. That's all drums. This is with the Dead. If I put this under H or under D, whatever, it's going to get lost. It's Garcia, same thing. Alden in the Way, solo with the Dead. Here's another Jerry Garcia, which is a great album with Merle Sanders. This is a fantastic album, Gatefold. So that's with the Dead. So you get the idea. Now we're going to go to Genesis. Pulled out a bunch of Genesis. Here's Genesis record as a group. This is produced by Genesis on Atlantic. This has Illegal Alien on it. Here we have Peter Gabriel soundtrack. So Peter Gabriel, I keep with the Dead. I'm going to keep with Genesis, even though he's been gone from Genesis for over probably 30, 40 years. I keep him with, I'm old school, the way I was brought up. He was in Genesis. He was a founding member. So he goes with my Genesis. Same with this, Brand X. Brand X is a jazz fusion rock band. Phil Collins on drums. Instead of keeping it in B and jazz, I keep it with my Genesis. So whatever Brand X records, Phil Collins, check him out. Check this record out. Tremendous. Here we have a Anthony Phillips solo record. This is a gatefold. With the lyrics. So Anthony Phillips goes with Genesis. Phil Collins goes with Genesis. Steve Hackett solo goes with Genesis. Brand X, Phil Collins. This has Phil Collins on here, and for some reason he may have 2 tracks on here. I could also say this would go with Robert Plant because Robert Plant's on here for post. But I always associated this because he did the theme. Phil Collins did the theme for White Nights, which was a Gregory Hines and Baryshnikov film of the 80s, very dated. But I put this, instead of with the soundtracks, I keep this with Genesis. And I could always find it, right? I find it within seconds. Another Brand X. This is my first Brand X album. This is on Passport. Here we have another Peter Gabriel. Here we have another Peter Gabriel. Here we have a Mike and the Mechanics. There's another solo band. Mike and the Mechanics, Mike Rutherford from, of course, Genesis. Here I have another Steve Hackett and Shrink. Great album and with the sticker. Here I have another Mike and the Mechanics. Here we have this is a Tony Banks 12-inch. Oh, it says Tony Banks right there. Great 12-inch. This is Love. And At the Edge of Night. Here we have a soundtrack. Music by Tony Banks. This is with Faye Dunaway. Alan Bates. This is a great album. Great soundtrack, rather. The movie's pretty good. So that's in Shrink. Here we have regular Genesis. Trick of the Trip. And another Genesis. And a Genesis. So you get the idea. And it's pretty easy. Pretty easy. And for as far as alphabetizing records, if it's Grant Parker and the Rumor, I put it under P. Grant Parker. I don't worry about the Rumor. If it's Gary U.S. Bonds, I don't put it under G because it's a specific artist name, so it's under B. Gary U.S. Bonds. I may also put in, because I associate him now with Stevie Van Zandt or Little Stevie from the E Street Band and Bruce. Sometimes I'll keep them in with Bruce Springsteen. If I have Bruce Springsteen, I have some Clarence Clements solos. I have a lot of Little Stevie solo records. They're in with the Bruce records. Same with the Southside Johnny records. I associate them with Springsteen because we grew up in Jersey, on the Jersey Shore. So that's what I do. And so you go with the last name. If you were going to alphabetize your Robert Plant into pop or rock, it's not R, it's Robert, it's the last name, it's P. If it's the name of the band, the Cars, then it would be C. I do it. That's the way we did it in a record store. Here I have what I consider a good band. I actually have a lot of Osmond brothers. So the Osmonds, I may not listen to them, but I have them for whatever reason. So with the Osmonds, I have Donny Osmond solo. I have him with his sister. I forget his sister's name now. Marie Osmond, of course. She's still on TV, still looking good. So I have that with the Osmond brothers. Here's the Osmonds, and here's another Donny. There's also a few other brothers that have solo albums. They're kept with the Osmond brothers. Marie Osmond is not under O, separate from the Osmonds. Donny Osmond is not under O, separate from the Osmonds. So that's under O. Here we have a cool lineup here. Paul Rodgers. Paul Rodgers is what I consider one of the best voices in rock. This just came out on LP. This was only available on CD. I had the CD and I loved it. It's a blues record with various artists on here, as far as Beck, David Gilmour, Buddy Guy, Brian May, Steve Miller, Gary Moore, Richie Sambora, Brian Seltzer, Slash. This is fantastic. This was recently released on vinyl. I picked this up right away. It's on, what label is this? Music on Vinyl. Nice job on here. Sounds good. Sounds analog. It's probably non-analog, but I like it. Here we have Bad Company. So I keep my Free, my Paul Rodgers, and my Bad Company together under Bad Company. Here we have a Free album. Paul Rodgers, I associate him with Bad Company. Here we have Free, great record, greatest hits, best of. Here we have Paul's solo record, one of the best analog records of all time, as far as I'm concerned, on Pi Records. And it says here, all analog, all the time, 429 records. I bought this used on eBay. I got a near mint copy, has an insert. And this was all analog to Royal Sessions. This is unbelievable. You love soul, Memphis, Tennessee. I believe this was the Royal Studios. Let's see, where is this from? Recorded at the Royal Studios in Memphis, Tennessee. Mastered at Sterling Sound in New York. So this is tremendous. You could pick one up used. It's pretty. It's not well known anymore, but people have spoken about it online. Here's another Bad Company, and here's Bad Company compilation. So you get the idea. Solo, whatever. And if there was another solo artist from Bad Company or Free, and I knew that, I would incorporate them with my Free and my Bad Company. Here we have Yes. Okay, so we have solo people. We have a great analog special edition of, which I love this record, Journey to the Center of the Earth. If you haven't heard this, pick this up. Even the original is great. It has a booklet inside. Here we have just Yes, as an illustration. Here we have a Rick Wakeman, The Burning soundtrack. This is a promo. This is an import promo. And we have a Steve Howe solo record. He's with Yes. We have a Rick Marantz keyboardist. He's with the Yes. We have a John Anderson solo. He's with the Yes. Chris Squire recently passed away. Great guy. I saw a lot of his interviews online, and a really humble genius. Chris Squire. Asia, I put in with Yes. Sometime it may be back in the A's, but Asia with Steve Howe. It could also go to Emerson, Lake and Palmer because Carl Palmer is in here. John Wetton is on this band. Here's Tales from Tropographic Oceans. Here's Alan White. He's solo. Yes, he's in with the Yes. And here we have another Rick Wakeman, Henry VIII stuff. So you get the idea there. Let's see. Okay, here we have the Animals. Eric Burdon and the Animals. Okay, so we have Animals, another Animals. And then I have Eric Burdon Declares War. So I keep my Eric Burdon and the Animals with Eric Burdon and War. I have a Black Man's Burden, Eric Burdon. It's a great album, hard to find, double record. And then I have some War records with this. This unbelievable. Then I have a Lee Oscar solo. I also have Senor Funk, which is an early version of the group War, which would be in with the War records. Okay, so I keep the Animals because it's Eric Burdon in with the War records, my Animals records, and so on. Here we have Chicago. I just pulled out a few Chicago. Now Chicago, I have a whole row of Chicago, everything they've done basically. So Chicago, and Peter Centura. So I keep any solo artists from Chicago with this. I believe I have him doing something with Cher that may be in with the Sonny and Cher. But if I put this in C and pop, it's going to get lost. I only have one of his records. You can see how thin it is. It would get lost in the rows of albums. It would be hard to find. Here's another Chicago. Here's another Chicago. So you get the idea with Chicago. Here we have the Clash. I have a lot of Clash records. I pulled out a few here. Clash, Give Them Enough Rope. Great. My favorite Clash record, London Calling. It's a double with the Hype and Shrink. It's really nice. And I keep these with I keep Big Audio Dynamite with my Clash records. I don't have a lot of Big Audio Dynamite, but I keep them. And if there's any other solo records of Clash people, I would put them in with the Clash. And it's easier to find when I know it's in there incorporated. If I can't find it, I'll look in the solo section. Eventually I'll locate it. Here I have just an example of The Shadows of Night. This has Glory on it. This is Van Morrison's band. And what I do is I keep everything I have of The Shadows of Night with Van Morrison. So I have those together. This would be with Van Morrison. Here we have another Patrick Morantz. That would be with the Yes. Here I have the Nice, and the Nice, as you know, is Emerson's band, Keith Emerson. I have the Nice. I have another Nice, and I have another Nice. These are all nice. And then I have Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I have this one, this album. I like to hear your comments on the cover. I think this was the album that put the nail in the coffin for Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Just a weird look on here, 80s, very 80s disco look. And then I have a Greg Lake solo record, which is nice. And then I have Emerson, Lake and Powell. So I keep these with the Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And we're going to go to Cream. So my Cream records, I have a weird setup for Cream. There's so many variations of people who were with Clapton, and Clapton basically runs this engine. So if Clapton is in Blind Faith with Steve Winwood, I basically keep that with the Cream stuff with Clapton. So here we have Cream. This is a issue of their last concert. I believe it's digital, but it's decent. It's hard to find on record. It's a trifold. Here we have a nice promo, white label promo of Wheels on Fire, Cream. Here we have a 12-inch Clapton. This is really nice. Edge of Darkness. I have one of Clapton's latest records. It's a 45 RPM. And then I have John Mayall, Blues Breakers featuring Clapton. So instead of keeping this with the Mayall records, which I have quite a bit of, I put this with my Eric Clapton stuff. Here we have Derek and the Dominos, Clapton. Here we have Derek and the Dominos, Clapton. And I also keep Delaney and Bonnie and with the Eric Clapton for some reason, because Delaney was so instrumental in getting Clapton's sound after he split from the Cream, the band, the trio with Plant and Ginger Baker. So I keep those with. I have about 6 or 7 Delaney and Bonnie. I love them, but I keep them with my Cream stuff. Here's a solo Bonnie Brand album, which I keep with, obviously, with her husband and Cream. Here we have one of my Jack Bruce records. Here we have Ginger Baker's solo record with Air Force, and here I have Blind Faith with Clapton. Well, it could also be in the Steve Winwood section. Okay, so that's it. So that's basically, you get the idea. So what I do is, in order to minimize loss of single records of a solo record, solo artist from a big band, as far as Yes, even the Stones. Mick Jagger records, solo records I have with the Stones. Ronnie Wood solo records I have with him. Keith Richards records I have with the Stones. Crosby, Stills, and Nash is a good example. I have a ton of Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young records. And every time they've done a solo record, I keep those with the Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young records. Graham Nash solo, Neil Young solo, Crosby solo. I even keep the Hollies because I associate them with Graham Nash. So I keep them with those records. So that's the basic idea. Pink Floyd, same way. Any major band, and I know you have your own examples. You have your own way of alphabetizing, categorizing, but this works for me. And like I said, if I want to find Ginger Baker's Air Force, I wouldn't look under A for Air Force, or I wouldn't look under B for Baker. I would look at with my Cream records, and it's right there on the shelf for Cream. So it works out. And for my pick of the day, as far as a great sounding OG record that I love and sounds really strong, it's just the first track's amazing. The way it's recorded is American Woman by the Guess Who. And that's another example. Guess Who you could actually put with Bachman Turner Overdrive. I keep them separate, but the band members are synonymous. So that's American Woman, the Guess Who. This is an original gatefold. And this has American Woman, No Time, which are the 2 main tracks. And it's good because they're on record 1, side 1 and 2, so you're getting the best sonics available. And this will test your system. It's just so well done. And the American Woman and No Time are the album cuts, not the single cuts. Here we have an original OG Inner from RCA, and here we have the orange RCA. So that's it. American Woman is my pick, and I want to thank everybody for checking us out. If you can, subscribe. If you got questions about my crazy system of categorizing, if I'm not home, they may not be able to find Delaney and Bonnie looking under D, because Delaney and Bonnie I consider the name of the group, but I have it with my Cream stuff. So that's my video for now, and I'm going to go back and try to watch if I can, some of Rachel's ghost live stream right now, talk to her. But thanks a lot. Keep rocking, and we're out today right now. That's it. Got to put these records back. Thanks a lot. Keep rocking. Take care.